The alarm rang through the ship like an angry scream. Danny Cole jumped from his chair and ran to the main control room. Red lights flashed everywhere. His crew was already there, looking at their screens with wide eyes. "What is happening?" Danny asked. He was the commander of the Times Starward Hope Asterisk, a small exploration ship from Earth. They had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now. "Sir, we have a problem," said Ben Garcia, his security officer. Ben was a big man with a calm voice. But right now he looked worried. "Our navigation system failed. We drifted off course while we were sleeping." Danny looked at the large screen on the wall. It showed a map of space around them. A red circle blinked in the corner. He felt his stomach drop. "Is that what I think it is?" he asked. "Yes, Commander," said Dr. Laura Kim, the ship's scientist. She pushed her glasses up her nose. "We are near the threshold." Everyone in the room went quiet. The threshold was famous across the entire galaxy. It was an ancient structure, built by a species that disappeared millions of years ago. It floated around a dead star, protected by weapons so powerful that nothing could survive them. For 12,000 years, different species had tried to enter the threshold. The Velkari, the smartest species in the galaxy, had sent their best ships. The Dreymoth, the strongest warriors known to exist, had attacked it with their entire fleet. Dozens of other civilizations had tried. All of them had failed. The threshold's defense systems had destroyed everything that came close, without permission. Only 3 species in all of history had ever been allowed inside. No one knew how they got permission. No one knew what was inside. "How close are we?" Danny asked. "Too close," Ben said. "We are inside the warning zone. The Galactic Council is already calling us." A new voice filled the room. It was cold and sharp. "Human vessel. This is Ambassador Zethra of the Velkari High Council. You will retreat immediately. You are approaching a protected site. Any attempt to enter will result in your destruction." Danny pressed a button to respond. "Ambassador, this was an accident. Our navigation failed. We are turning around now." "See that you do," the ambassador said. "The threshold has killed better species than yours. Do not be foolish." The communication ended. Danny let out a long breath. "Okay, everyone. Let's get out of here before... after 8... with..." A loud bang shook the ship. Sparks flew from one of the control panels. Katie Marshall, the youngest member of the crew, fell backward as her station exploded. "Katie?" Laura ran to help her. "I'm okay," Katie said, standing up. Her face was covered in black dust. "But I think something is wrong with my..." Before she could finish, the floor opened beneath her. An escape pod had activated by mistake. Katie fell into it, and the pod shot out of the ship before anyone could stop it. "No!" Danny shouted. He ran to the window and watched the small pod fly away from them. It was heading straight toward the threshold. "We have to save her," Ben said. "We cannot," Laura said quietly. Her face was pale. "Look." On the screen, they could see Katie's pod approaching the ancient structure. The threshold was enormous. It looked like a ring made of black metal, covered in strange symbols that glowed with soft blue light. Around it, thousands of destroyed ships floated in the darkness, the bones of all those who had tried to enter without permission. Danny felt sick. Katie was only 23 years old. She had joined his crew because she wanted to see the stars. Now she was going to die because of a broken machine. "Commander," Reinhardt said from his communication station, "the Galactic Council is watching. Every major species in the galaxy has their eyes on us right now." Danny did not care about the galaxy. He cared about the young woman in that pod. The escape pod reached the barrier. This was the point where the threshold's weapons would activate. This was where everything died. But nothing happened. Katie's pod passed through the barrier like it was not there. No weapons fired. No alarms sounded. The pod simply floated through and landed gently on the structure's surface. The control room was silent. Danny could not believe what he was seeing. "That is impossible," Laura whispered. On the screen, they watched Katie climb out of her pod. She stood on the surface of the threshold, looking around. She waved at the camera, confused but alive. "Commander Cole," Ambassador Zethra's voice returned. It sounded different now. Shocked. "What did your species do? How did she survive?" "I do not know," Danny said honestly. "I have no idea. The communications went crazy. Messages came from everywhere." The Velkari demanded answers. The Dreymoth accused humans of cheating somehow. Other species asked questions, made threats, offered rewards for information, but Danny ignored all of them. He just stared at the screen, at Katie walking around on a structure that had killed millions, and he wondered what it meant. "Sir," Ryan said, "Katie is sending a message." Her voice came through the speakers. It was shaky but clear. "Hello? Can you hear me? I am okay. I do not know why I am okay, but I am. This place is. It is beautiful. There are lights everywhere. And the walls? They seem alive. It is like they are watching me, but not in a scary way. In a curious way." Danny pressed the button to talk. "Katie, stay where you are. Do not touch anything. We are going to figure out how to get you back." "Okay, Commander," she said. "But I do not think this place wants to hurt me. I think it was waiting for someone." The Galactic Council continued to send angry messages. They wanted to know how a human had done what no other species could do. They wanted answers that Danny did not have. All he knew was that a young engineer from Earth had walked into the most protected place in the galaxy. And the ancient weapons that had killed thousands had simply let her pass. He looked at his crew. They looked back at him with the same confusion in their eyes. "Well," Danny said slowly, "I think we just changed history." Outside the window, the threshold floated in the darkness, its lights glowing brighter than before. And somewhere inside it, Katie Marshall stood alone, the first human to enter a place that had rejected every other species in the galaxy. The question was simple. Why? And Danny knew that finding the answer would change everything. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Within hours, every intelligent species knew what had happened. A human had entered the threshold without authorization. A human had survived. Danny Cole sat in a meeting room on Station Varath, the largest space station in the sector. Around him sat representatives from 12 different species. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had bodies made of light. All of them were staring at him. Ambassador Zethra of the Velkari stood at the front. The Velkari were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. They considered themselves the smartest species in existence. Right now, Zethra looked angry. "This is unacceptable," she said. "The threshold has been studied for 12,000 years. Our greatest minds have tried to understand it. Our most advanced ships have tried to enter it. All have failed. And now you expect us to believe that a random human simply walked through?" "That is exactly what happened," Danny said calmly. "We did not plan it. We did not use any special technology. Katie Marshall fell into an escape pod by accident, and the threshold let her in." "Impossible," said a Dreymoth general. The Dreymoth were massive creatures, with 4 arms and skin like rock. They were built for war. "The barrier destroys everything. We lost 50 ships trying to enter. 50 ships with our best warriors. Your human should be dead, but she is not," Danny replied. "She is alive and well inside the structure." The room erupted in arguments. Species accused each other of hiding secrets. Some accused humans of lying. Others demanded that humans share whatever technology they had used. Danny stayed quiet and let them argue. He did not have any secrets to share. He was just as confused as everyone else. Finally, a calm voice cut through the noise. It belonged to Elder Morhen, an ancient being from a species so old that no one remembered their original name. Morhen looked like a tree made of silver, with branches that moved like arms. "Perhaps," Morhen said slowly, "we should conduct a proper test. If one human could enter, perhaps others can as well. Or perhaps it was simply luck." Everyone went quiet. "It was a reasonable idea." "I agree," Danny said. I will ask for volunteers from my crew. We will attempt to enter the threshold while you watch. If we fail, then Katie's survival was a miracle. If we succeed, then we need to figure out why. The council agreed. 2 days later, Danny returned to his ship with new orders. The entire galaxy would be watching. Ben Garcia was the first to volunteer. I have been a soldier for 20 years, he said. If there is danger, I should face it first. Dr. Laura Kim raised her hand next. I am a scientist. If there is something special about humans, I need to see it for myself. Ryan Hart smiled nervously. I guess I will come too. Someone needs to write about this for history. Danny looked at his small team. 3 ordinary humans. They were about to try something that had killed millions of beings across thousands of years. Are you sure? He asked. If this does not work, you will die. There is no way to save you once you cross the barrier. We are sure, Ben said. The others nodded. They flew a small shuttle toward the threshold. Hundreds of ships from different species watched from a safe distance. Cameras recorded everything. This moment would be seen by billions of beings across the galaxy. Approaching the barrier, Ryan said. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. Danny watched from the Times Starward Hope asterisk. His heart was beating so fast he could feel it in his throat. The shuttle reached the point of no return. The same point where the Valkyrie ships had been destroyed. The same point where the Dreymoth fleet had been turned to dust. Nothing happened. The shuttle passed through the barrier like it was made of air. Ben, Laura, and Ryan landed safely next to Katie's escape pod. We made it, Laura's voice came through the speakers. She sounded like she might cry. We actually made it. The Galactic Council went mad. Representatives screamed questions. Some demanded that humans explain themselves. Others accused them of some kind of trick. But then something else happened. A Valkyrie scientist named Torath decided to follow the humans. He was young and ambitious. He believed that if humans could enter, perhaps their barrier-breaking technology could be stolen. He flew his small ship toward the threshold without permission. The moment he reached the barrier, the ancient weapons activated. Beams of white light shot from the structure. They were so bright that Danny had to cover his eyes. Torath's ship was cut into 1,000 pieces in less than a second. Only the emergency teleport system saved his life, pulling him back to his species' main ship at the last moment. The message was clear. Humans could enter. Others could not. This proves nothing, Ambassador Zethra said, but her voice was weaker now. There must be a reason. Some technology, some genetic modification. We have nothing, Danny said. We are just humans, ordinary humans. Inside the threshold, Laura began taking samples. She analyzed everything. The air, the walls, the strange lights that floated everywhere. She compared human biology to the biology of other species, looking for differences. There has to be something, she said over the communication system. Something about us that the threshold recognizes. Katie had been exploring while waiting for the others. She led them deeper into the structure. The walls were covered in symbols that seemed to move and change. Rooms opened into other rooms, each one larger than the last. Look at this, Katie said, pointing to a massive chamber ahead. They entered together. The room was the size of a small city. The walls were covered in screens, each one showing images and text in languages no one recognized. It was an archive, a library of knowledge from civilizations that had existed before the current galactic order. This is incredible, Ryan whispered. This is everything. History, science, art, millions of years of information. But when Laura tried to access one of the screens, nothing happened. The data was there, but it would not respond to her touch. It is locked, she said. The archive is showing us what exists, but it will not let us read anything. Maybe we need to earn it, Katie said quietly. She was staring at a door at the far end of the chamber. It glowed brighter than everything else. Maybe the threshold is not just letting us in. Maybe it is testing us. The others looked at the door. Something about it felt important. It felt like the structure was waiting for them to make a choice. Should we open it? Ben asked. Danny's voice came through their communicators. What is happening in there? There is another door, Laura explained. It looks like the structure wants us to go deeper. But we do not know what is waiting for us. Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he said, The galaxy is watching. Everyone wants to know why only humans can enter. If there are answers, they are probably through that door. Katie looked at her crewmates. Ben nodded. Laura took a deep breath. Ryan gave a nervous smile. Together, they walked toward the glowing door. As they approached, it opened slowly, revealing a long corridor filled with soft light. They stepped through, and the door closed behind them. Whatever test the threshold had planned for them, it was about to begin. The corridor seemed to go on forever. Katie walked at the front, with Ben, Laura, and Ryan close behind her. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that made everything feel like a dream. How long have we been walking? Ryan asked. He looked at his watch, but the numbers were frozen. My equipment stopped working. Mine too, Laura said. The threshold is blocking our technology. We are on our own. They kept walking until the corridor opened into a large circular room. The moment they stepped inside, the entrance behind them disappeared. The wall became solid, as if there had never been a door. We are trapped, Ben said. He did not sound scared, but his hand moved to the weapon on his belt. No, Katie said softly. She was looking at the center of the room. We are being tested. The room changed. The walls melted away, and suddenly they were standing on a street. Buildings rose around them. Cars drove past. People walked on sidewalks, talking and laughing. It looked exactly like a city on Earth. What is this? Ryan asked. How is this possible? It is a simulation, Laura said. The threshold is creating a scenario for us. This is the test. A woman appeared in front of them. She was holding a child's hand. The child looked scared. Behind them, a fire was spreading through a building. People were screaming. Please help us, the woman said. The building is going to collapse. My daughter is too small to run fast enough. You have to carry her. Katie stepped forward immediately. Of course, give her to me. But then a man appeared on the other side. He was old and could barely walk. Please, he called out. I cannot move fast enough. If someone does not help me, I will die. The team looked at each other. They could see the building cracking. They had maybe 30 seconds before it fell. We can save all three, Ben said. Katie, take the child. Ryan, help the old man. Laura and I will support anyone who falls. They ran. Katie grabbed the little girl and sprinted down the street. Ryan put his arm around the old man and moved as fast as he could. The building groaned behind them. At the last second, the structure collapsed. Dust and fire exploded outward. But all three people they tried to save were safe on the other side of the street. The simulation froze. The city faded away. They were back in the circular room. Words appeared on the wall in a language they could suddenly understand. Choice observed. Cooperation chosen. Proceed. A new door opened on the far side of the room. It was watching how we made the choice, Laura said. Not just what we chose, but how we thought about it. They walked through the door into another chamber. This one was darker. In the center stood a single figure. It looked like a Dreymoth warrior, but its eyes were empty. Beside it was a table with a weapon. A voice filled the room. It had no source. It simply existed in the air around them. This creature destroyed a colony ship carrying 10,000 innocent beings. It shows no regret. It will kill again if released. You have one chance. Kill it now, or let it go free. Ben's face went hard. As a security officer, he had seen people do terrible things. He understood justice. His hand reached for the weapon on the table. Wait, Katie said. She was staring at the Dreymoth figure. Something is wrong. This does not feel right. It killed 10,000 people, Ben said. the voice said so. But we only have the voice's word, Laura pointed out. We have no evidence. No trial. Just a command to execute. Ryan was pacing nervously. What if this is another trick? What if the test is not about killing a killer? What if it is about whether we will kill without proof? The team argued. Ben believed that monsters should be stopped before they hurt more people. Katie believed that execution without trial was wrong. No matter what someone had done, Laura wanted more information before making any choice. Ryan just wanted to leave. Minutes passed. The voice spoke again. You must decide. Time is limited. No. Katie said finally. We will not kill anyone based only on words. If this creature is guilty, it deserves a trial. If we are wrong, we become murderers. Ben struggled with this. His instinct was to protect innocent people. But he nodded slowly. She is right. I do not like it. But she is right. We cannot execute without knowing the truth. They stepped away from the weapon. The Dreymoth figure disappeared. The room changed again. Words appeared on the wall. Mercy observed. Doubt observed. Proceed. Another door opened. But this time, Katie noticed something strange about the words. It said, Doubt observed, she said. Not doubt rejected, or doubt overcome. It was watching to see if we could feel doubt. If we could be uncertain. Why would that matter? Ryan asked. Laura's eyes went wide. Because other species cannot. Think about it. The Velkari pride themselves on logic. They eliminated doubt centuries ago. Because it slowed down their decisions. The Dreymoth believe hesitation is weakness. They trained themselves to act without questioning. But we still doubt, Katie said slowly. We still question ourselves. We still feel uncertain about our choices. And the threshold values that, Laura finished. It is not testing whether we make the right choice. It is testing whether we struggle with the choice at all. They continued through more chambers. Each one presented a new situation. In one room, they were offered great power but warned it would change them. They refused, because they were afraid of what they might become. In another room, they found someone who had hurt them in the past. They chose to forgive, though it was difficult. In a third room, they were told they could leave with treasure beyond imagination, but only if they abandoned one team member behind. They refused immediately. Each time, the walls recorded their choice. But more importantly, the walls recorded their hesitation. Their arguments. Their doubt. Their struggle. We are not passing because we are choosing correctly, Laura said after the 5th test. We are passing because we are choosing humanly. With all our fear, and uncertainty and hope, the final door in this section opened into a vast hallway. At the end was a chamber so bright they could barely look at it. I think that is where we will find our answers, Katie said. Ben checked his watch. It was working again. They had been inside the threshold for 6 hours. The galaxy is probably going crazy right now, Ryan said. We should let them know we are alive. We should let them know we are alive. But when they tried to send a message, their equipment showed something strange. According to the timestamps, only 20 minutes had passed outside the structure. Time moves differently here, Laura said. The threshold is giving us as long as we need. They walked toward the bright chamber. Whatever was waiting for them, they would face it together. As humans. With all their doubt and fear and mercy, and somewhere, watching from the walls, the ancient intelligence that ran this place was satisfied with what it had seen. These strange, uncertain creatures from a small blue planet were exactly what it had been waiting for. The bright chamber was larger than anything they had seen before. It stretched so far in every direction that Katie could not see the walls. The ceiling was filled with lights that looked like stars, but they moved and pulsed as if they were alive. In the center of this impossible space stood a figure made of light. It had no fixed shape. Sometimes it looked human. Sometimes it looked like something else entirely. It flickered and changed like a flame in the wind. Welcome, the figure said. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. You have passed the trials. You have earned the right to understand. Katie stepped forward. The others stayed close behind her. "What are you?" she asked. "I am what remains of the architects," the figure said. "My creators built this place millions of years before your species learned to walk. They gathered knowledge from across the universe. Technology, history, art, science, everything they could find, they stored here." "Why?" Laura asked. "Why collect all of it?" The figure's form shifted. For a moment, it looked sad. "Because they knew that civilizations fall. Empires rise and collapse. Species evolve, and then destroy themselves. My creators wanted to preserve what was important. They wanted to give future generations a chance to learn from the past, instead of repeating the same mistakes. But you locked it away," Ben said. "The barrier has killed thousands who tried to enter." "Not locked," the figure corrected. "Protected. There is a difference. The knowledge here could rebuild entire civilizations. It could also destroy them. My creators knew that such power could not be given to just anyone. It had to go to beings who would use it wisely." Ryan laughed nervously. "And you think humans are wise? We have fought wars over land. We have hurt each other for thousands of years. We are not exactly the best example of wisdom." "That is exactly why you were chosen," the figure said. The team looked at each other in confusion. "I do not understand," Katie said. The figure raised its hand, and images appeared in the air around them. They showed different species from across the galaxy. The Velkari with their cold logic. The Dreymoth with their perfect discipline. Other species that the humans did not recognize. Each of these civilizations reached a point where they decided to improve themselves, the figure explained. The Velkari eliminated doubt. They considered it inefficient. When one of them makes a decision, they never wonder if they were wrong. They never lie awake at night questioning their choices. They simply act and move forward. The image showed a Velkari making a choice that hurt millions of beings. There was no hesitation on its face, no guilt afterward. The Dreymoth removed mercy, the figure continued. They believed it made them weak. A warrior who feels pity for an enemy might hesitate. Hesitation leads to death. So they cut mercy out of their culture completely. The image showed Dreymoth warriors destroying a weaker species. There was no cruelty on their faces, but there was also no sadness. It was just a task to complete. Other species removed fear, or shame, or regret. Each civilization found something they considered a flaw and erased it. They believed they were making themselves better, stronger, more perfect. The figure turned to face the humans directly. But they were actually making themselves smaller. They were removing the very things that made them capable of growth. "I still do not understand," Katie said. "How does feeling doubt or mercy make us better?" "Because those feelings are teachers," the figure said. "Doubt makes you question your choices. It forces you to consider other perspectives. Mercy allows you to see enemies as beings worthy of compassion. It prevents cruelty. Guilt tells you when you have done wrong, so you can do better next time. Fear warns you of danger, so you think carefully before acting." Other species removed these traits because they were uncomfortable. But discomfort is not the same as weakness. Discomfort is how you learn. Laura was breathing quickly. Her scientific mind was racing to understand. So the barrier does not check for technology or permission. It checks for what? Our psychology? Our emotional capacity? It checks for wholeness, the figure said. The authorization system reads the fundamental nature of a mind. When a Velkari approaches, the barrier sees a being that cannot doubt itself. Such a being cannot be trusted with power, because it will never question whether it should use that power. When a Dreymoth approaches, the barrier sees a being that cannot show mercy. Such a being cannot be trusted with weapons, because it will use them without restraint. But when a human approaches, the figure continued, the barrier sees something different. It sees a being that still carries everything. Doubt, mercy, fear, guilt, hope, anger, love. All of the emotions that other species considered weaknesses and removed. Humans kept them all. We did not keep them on purpose, Ben said. We just have not figured out how to remove them yet. Perhaps, the figure said. Or perhaps some part of your species understood that these feelings are precious, that they make you who you are. Either way, the result is the same. Humans are one of the only species in this galaxy that remains capable of true moral growth. Katie thought about this. She thought about all the times she had questioned herself, all the nights she had spent wondering if she had made the right choice, all the fear she had felt coming into this place. We are not special because we are strong, she said slowly. We are special because we are still struggling. Yes, the figure said. Exactly. The door to this place was never locked. It was always open, but only for those who remained capable of hesitating before walking through, only for those who could stand at the entrance and wonder if they should enter. Other species approach with perfect confidence. They do not hesitate. They do not question, and so the barrier knows they cannot be trusted. Humans approach with doubt, with fear, with hope and uncertainty. The barrier recognizes this. It sees that you still have the capacity to learn, to change, to grow, and so it lets you pass. The figure waved its hand, and the archive opened around them. Millions of data points appeared in the air. Technology that could cure diseases. Energy sources that could power worlds forever. History from civilizations that existed before the stars were born. This is all yours now, the figure said. The knowledge of the architects. Everything we gathered across millions of years. It belongs to humanity. Ryan looked overwhelmed. This is too much. We are not ready for this kind of power. That response, the figure said, is exactly why you are ready. A species that believes it deserves unlimited power is dangerous. A species that worries it might not be ready is far more trustworthy. But the other species will not accept this, Ben said. They might, the figure agreed, but that is a problem for you to solve. My purpose was only to protect this knowledge until the right beings arrived. You are those beings. What you do with this gift is your choice. The figure began to fade. One final warning. The knowledge here could corrupt you. If humanity uses it for conquest or control, you will become like the others. You will start to remove your doubts, your fears, your mercies, because they will seem inconvenient. And if that happens, the door will close for you too. Stay whole, humans. Stay uncertain. Stay capable of guilt and hope and fear. These are not your weaknesses. They are your greatest strengths. The figure disappeared completely. The archive remained, floating in the air, waiting to be explored. Katie looked at her friends. They looked back at her with the same expression of wonder and terror. Well, she said quietly, I guess we need to tell Commander Cole. They had come looking for answers. They had found something much bigger. Now they had to figure out what to do with it. The fate of the galaxy might depend on their choice. Commander Danny Cole listened to Katie's report 3 times. Each time, he hoped he had misunderstood. Each time, the words remained the same. Humanity had been given the greatest gift in the history of the galaxy. Technology that could end disease, energy that could last forever, weapons that could destroy stars. All of it now belonged to Earth, and the rest of the galaxy was furious. Danny sat in his command chair and watched the messages pour in. The Valkyrie demanded access to the archive. They said they had studied the threshold for thousands of years and deserved the knowledge more than young species like humans. The Dreymoth sent a simpler message: share the archive, or face war. Dozens of other species sent their own demands. Some offered trade. Some offered alliance. Some offered threats. The message was clear. Humanity could not be allowed to keep this power alone. What do we do? Ryan asked. He was sitting in the corner of the control room, looking at the floor. We cannot fight the entire galaxy. And we cannot just hand over weapons that could destroy civilizations. The architects said we could not use it for conquest, Laura reminded them. If we give weapons to species that might use them badly, Are we responsible for what happens? Ben crossed his arms. And if we keep everything for ourselves, we become the tyrants everyone fears. Either way, we lose. Katie had been quiet since returning from the threshold. She stood by the window, looking out at the stars. The figure said something important, she said softly. It said the knowledge had to be given freely. Not sold. Not traded. Freely. Architect 7ds. 21. Track time. Architect 7ds. But if we give it freely to everyone, some species will use it to hurt others. Danny said. Maybe, Katie agreed. Or maybe the knowledge comes with its own test. The threshold did not just give us the archive. It gave us the truth. It told us why we were chosen and why others were rejected. That truth is part of the gift. Danny leaned forward. What are you saying? Katie turned to face the room. I am saying we should not just share the archive. We should share everything. The knowledge. Yes. But also the reason. We tell every species in the galaxy exactly what the architects told us. We explain that the threshold was not locked. It was open to anyone who still carried doubt and mercy and fear. We tell them they were rejected, not because they were weak, but because they removed the parts of themselves that mattered most. They will not believe us, Ben said. The Velkari will say, we invented the story. The Dreymoth will call it an insult. Quote, some will, Katie admitted. But some might listen. Some might start to wonder if they gave up something precious when they made themselves perfect. Some might want to change. Laura nodded slowly. The archive is not the real gift. The real gift is the message. The idea that wholeness matters more than efficiency. That doubt is more valuable than certainty. Danny stood up. He walked to the communication station and began typing. I am going to broadcast this to every species in the galaxy. The full truth. The tests we passed, the figure we met. Everything it told us. I am going to include the location of the threshold and instructions on how to approach. And I am going to tell them that if they want to enter, they need to find their doubt again. They need to rediscover mercy. Commander, Ryan said carefully, this could start a war. It could, Danny agreed. Or it could start something else. Something better. He pressed the button. The message went out. The response was immediate and chaotic. Some species laughed at the idea that their improvements were actually weaknesses. Others demanded that Danny be arrested for spreading lies. A few went silent, as if thinking carefully about what they had heard. The Velkari High Council issued an official statement calling the human claims ridiculous. But within hours, young Velkari across the galaxy were asking questions their elders could not answer. Why had they eliminated doubt? What had they lost? Could they get it back? The Dreymoth War Council prepared for battle. But before they could attack, some of their own warriors began to speak up. They remembered stories from before the Mercy Purge. Stories about Dreymoth who had shown kindness to enemies. Stories that had been forbidden for generations. Now those stories were being whispered again. 3 weeks after Danny's broadcast, a small Velkari ship approached the threshold. Inside was a young scientist named Kira. She had spent her entire life being told that doubt was weakness, but after hearing the human message, she had started to question that teaching. The galaxy watched as she flew toward the barrier. This was the test. If she died, the human claims would seem like lies. If she lived, everything would change. Kira reached the barrier. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was filled with uncertainty. She did not know if she was doing the right thing. She did not know if she would survive. The ancient weapons did not fire. For the first time in 10,000 years, a Velkari passed through the threshold. Kira landed on the surface and stepped out of her ship. Tears ran down her gray face. She had doubted. She had feared. She had been uncertain. And the door had opened for her. The news spread instantly. Other species began to wonder. If the Velkari could change, maybe anyone could. Maybe the traits they had removed were not gone forever. Maybe they could be found again. Katie Marshall was appointed as the human liaison to the threshold. She spent her days helping other species understand what had happened and what it meant. She watched as beings from across the galaxy struggled to reconnect with emotions they had abandoned long ago. It was not easy. Most failed. The Dreymoth in particular found it almost impossible to feel mercy after generations without it. But some tried. And trying was the first step. 1 year after the original discovery, Danny Cole retired from exploration. He had seen enough of the galaxy. He wanted to go home to Earth and live a quiet life. Before he left, Katie found him in the cargo bay of the Times Starward Hope *, packing his few belongings. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked. "Sharing everything? Telling the truth?" Danny smiled. It was the same smile he had given her when she first joined the crew, years ago. "I do not know," he said honestly. "Some species are changing for the better. Others are angry and might stay angry forever. We might have saved the galaxy. We might have made everything worse. I genuinely do not know." "Then why are you smiling?" "Because not knowing is the point," Danny said. "If I was certain we did the right thing, that would mean I had stopped doubting. And if I stopped doubting, I would become like the Velkari used to be. Perfect, and certain, and closed." He finished packing and looked out the window at the stars. "We humans are messy. We doubt ourselves constantly. We feel guilty about choices we made years ago. We hope for things that might never happen. We get scared when we should be brave. And brave when we should be scared. We are a complete disaster." "Honestly," Katie laughed. "That does not sound like a compliment." "It is the highest compliment I know," Danny said. "Because that mess is why the door opened for us. That mess is why we were trusted with the greatest gift in the universe. Not because we were perfect. Because we were still trying to be better." He picked up his bag and walked toward the exit. At the door, he stopped and looked back at Katie. "Take care of the threshold," he said. "Take care of all those species trying to find their way back to who they used to be. And Katie?" "Yes, Commander?" "Never stop doubting. Never stop asking if you are doing the right thing. The moment you become certain, you start to lose what makes you special." He left. Katie stood alone in the cargo bay for a long time, thinking about his words. Outside the window, the threshold glowed softly against the darkness of space. Its doors remained open, waiting, watching, ready to welcome anyone who had the courage to doubt themselves enough to walk through. And somewhere in the galaxy, another young being was asking questions for the first time, wondering if certainty was really better than uncertainty, wondering if the feelings their ancestors had removed were worth finding again. The door trembled. Just slightly. Just enough. The universe was changing, one doubt at a time.